Welcome back, everybody. My name is Ryan. I'm the founder of Prelicensing Me, and we're talking about Wall Street diversity programs for military veterans. So, I wanted to share some of my observations on what I think helped me be successful in my journey when I was applying to the Veterans Associate Program. And there are these three kind of themes that kept reoccurring. The first is that finance is a relationship driven industry. And the second is about the importance of being proactive. And the third is understanding yourself, knowing thyself, right? So there's a couple different graphics here that I'm going to talk about. In the bottom left-hand corner, it says, if we create networks with the sole intention of getting something, we won't succeed. We can't pursue the benefits of networks. The benefits ensue from investments in meaningful activities and relationships. So that kind of goes to the first point, right? People only will help you if you have an authentic relationship with them. That's what it comes down to. They don't owe you anything. They don't have to help you. They're being nice if they're helping you. But really, you have to have some sort of authentic rapport with them. And I really caution people, and I hear it every once in a while, about people treating relationships as transactional. They're absolutely not. And you should develop authentic relationships with people, even if it has no self-interest involved, simply because developing authentic relationships is something that makes us human, and we really benefit from it psychologically. For the knowing thyself, we have that's from Aristotle. Here's a computer-generated image of what he would look like with his beautiful white hair, and then the last part about like being proactive. It's another Adam Grant quote, just like the first one. And it talks about how insecure people pretend to know things they don't. They dismiss expertise from others. Secure people admit when they don't know. They defer to expertise in others. And then proactive people take the initiative to learn what they don't know. They acquire expertise from others. So not only do we want to be secure in who we are as people, but also understand that, if you don't ask any questions and you think you know everything, you're going to be in a poor position throughout any type of experience in life. And so we want to be proactive and understand what we don't know. And that really ties into all of them, right? Like knowing yourself, knowing who to ask questions to, having somebody who's willing to ask questions, etc. So when we dive into the first topic, so finance is relationship driven. So again, just to hit the point over your head, develop authentic relationships. And some of the ways that you can start, these are just ways to start. These are not formulaic things necessarily, but call them by their name. You're coming from the military environment. Don't use the sir or ma'am unless you're in the South or the person is like 60 plus. But, even a lot of like older people, like our elders in society, they don't get called by their name that often if you actually talk to like older people. And that's a little strange to think about, but that also reiterates the importance of calling them by their first name. Especially if they're your peer in terms of age. Like if they're under 40, you definitely shouldn't be calling it them sir or ma'am. The other part is asking good questions on the phone or in coffee chats. So showing that you actually came prepared for when it's time to talk, being engaging, having stories to share, being somebody who is multidimensional, only will help people get into your corner. And you don't also want to ramble. Of course, I am rambling because I'm trying to help you. That's a little different. The second part is the follow through. So a lot of people think like, oh man, if I can just get this one meeting or I can do just this one thing, like my life will be completely changed. And it's like, no, that stuff is important. But what's more important is everything after you close some kind of sale or you develop a new relationship or you get the thing that you wanted. It's all of the steps after that really define you as a person. They want people who are consistent. They want people who send thank you emails. They want people who will call on time, who will show up on time, who are not going to be drunk or high or whatever. And generally with like the contacts you're trying to like cultivate and the relationships you're trying to cultivate, you want to re-engage every couple weeks to once a month. And it really just depends on where you are in the process. Definitely for these Wall Street diversity programs, you need somebody who's on the inside who can say, yeah, this person is like really good and vouches for you. But the only reason why they vouch for you is if you can have an authentic relationship with them. And then the last part is, respecting other people's time. So you want to focus on firms that have a culture that matches your personality, or they do work that you actually care about, or something like that. And the reason is you don't want to spend a lot of time recruiting for a bank or some other type of financial institution that you would never want to work at, that doesn't pay what you want, that doesn't do the work that you're interested in. You're just wasting everybody's time. So I think one of the best ways to figure that out is to have a few conversations with people. Don't go overboard. Like, let's say 3 people at some sort of firm. Try to get a sense for the culture, especially if you can do an in-person event. That would really help you. And then go from there. The second part is about being proactive. So you want to do your own research. That kind of goes into the respecting other people's time on the last part. If you understand what that company represents, what the people are like, stuff like that, the type of work that you're interested in, you're going to have a much easier chance of optimizing for the things that you're interested in and saying no to the opportunities that you're not interested in. And for those of you who have never done your own research, the basic way you start is you want to find the sources of truth. These are authoritative sources. And it's like, if you're interested in Goldman Sachs and you want to know what the deadline is for their veterans integration program, you want to go to the company website. And if nothing is listed, then you'll want to reach out and continue doing things like that. If you want to understand the culture, you can go onto LinkedIn. Or if you don't have a LinkedIn, develop one. Include all of your information. Send emails. Cold approach people. You want to find some sort of person that's willing to talk to you, and genuinely they either have a mutual connection or they're a past veteran candidate or something like that. And then you also want to be a problem solver. The reason why people like military veterans is because they have 2 different approaches to life, 2 different traits to life. One of them is that they solve problems. And the second is that they're not used to being salaried, so they stay until the job gets done. So if you take those 2 things that you've spent the last, 4 to 20 years working on, or even 30 years, you want to apply it to your life. If you're still on active duty and you want to work in a financial shop, you got to figure out you have to do the math on when you will get out, when your commitment ends, and would you have enough time according to the different regulations, such as the Air Force instruction or whatever the Army or Navy's instruction manual is, to actually complete a skill bridge. Is the company that you want to work with an authorized provider? If they're not, could you help them get accredited through the Department of Defense? And as an alternative, could you become a fellow under another program? Is there a workaround that's even easier and simple for everybody on both sides of the opportunity? And so those are just some things to think about and sit on. So also when you reach adulthood, it's first I was have all the responsibility. We're looking at the meme on the right hand side. But then I was oh, you have all the responsibility. And you have to look at it as a very special thing, right? You have the ability to control your life and to make it into whatever it is that you want. If you're a military veteran, you're definitely more than capable. You're more than smart, and you're more than competent to achieve what you want. And the only person who's going to make that happen is you. All right, so the last point is knowing thyself. So you want to consider a couple of these ideas, right? If you want work-life balance, but you still want to work in finance, then you probably don't want to work in investment banking, where there are literally 100-hour weeks on let's say when you're first starting out for the first couple of years. You would probably want to do something else. You'd probably want to do either a more support role in a different part of the bank, or you would maybe want to do something in sales and trading where they have better hours, but the intensity is very high. You also want to consider specifically what differentiates you, this candidate, from the 500 applicants that we're going to go ahead and read. And a lot of them have similar things as you. They're all military veterans. They all went to an academy, or if they were enlisted, they were a special operator. they did some pretty cool stuff, right? But what makes you special? And so the way that you can think about it is what is so unique to you? What are things that you like? Not just like, oh, I like watching TV, but do you like talking to people? Do you like socializing? Well, if you like socializing, what's a career field where you could shine? Because you want to place yourself and set yourself up for success where you're working in a field that taps into your strengths and avoids your weaknesses, more or less. You also want to have a coherent story of why finance. Why are you interested in banking? Why not private equity? Why not this? Why not that? Let me tell you something. No one wants to hear that, oh yeah, I'm interested in private equity, but I'm applying to a sell-side investment bank because I want to use you as a stepping stone. That would be an automatic deny in my head if I was on the other side of the table, because that's not showing that you want to have an authentic relationship with us. You're not interested in the work. You're just using it as basically like a bus stop on your ride to greatness or whatever. So it's really disingenuous. However, if you are interested in private equity, but you are also interested in banking, maybe you could focus on some of the other aspects. You could say something like, I'm really interested in finance because I studied blank. Or I've always been interested in personal finance, but recently I've become more interested in how the economy works and institutional finance. Or, when inflation was eating away at my paycheck, I realized that XYZ. And that got me interested into something else, like some very simple 2 or 3 sentence explanation. So for strengths and weaknesses, there's a couple ways of doing this. You don't have to completely destroy yourself on this question. You're not trying to do that. And maybe if somebody asks you, what a weakness is, like, hey, I used to be a bad writer, and I realized that, and it really hurt my ego when my English teacher gave me a C in class or something. And then you're like, well, then I decided to go write every single day, and then, 2 years later you get published or something. That would be a good weakness story to share because it talks about one of your weaknesses, which is legitimate and shows self-awareness, and then you're not just like this egomaniac. It shows a corrective course, how you fixed it, and it told a little story that got somebody interested. I'm not really interested in listening to 500 answers on weaknesses, and I'm sure no one else is, but if you can tell some stories and stuff, I think people would be pretty captivated and find you a pretty interesting person. And at the very least, if you get the opportunity or you don't get the opportunity, you know that you got it because it was, you. Another is like, how do you handle conflict? Another is maybe like conflict within people, with other people, with certain processes, etc. What are the skills that you'd bring over from your military background? Here's a very common one that actually a lot of people screw up on is, why are you leaving the military? That's almost like why finance, but it's a little bit inverted. So you have to think about, why are you leaving the military? So one of the things I said in my interview was, I'm at a natural inflection point in my life where I'm approaching my 5-year commitment. I've always been interested in economics. I did defense acquisitions, which dealt with contracts and money in the military. And, let's say, oh, you're also getting married. Okay. And you want to have a family life and you want to settle down into a specific location, or you have family in this specific city. And, you want to show that you have more ties and there's more to you, that you're multidimensional. The last is something for you to think about yourself. It's, how can you ensure success? Who did you talk to at the firm, and are they willing to vouch for you? You will never, ever, ever ask somebody, hey, can you vouch for me? That puts them in a very awkward situation. But what you can do is develop an authentic relationship. And if they decide, and if they think that you meet the standard, then they'll vouch for you, and they'll probably tell you at a later time. But you don't go out and ask somebody. You got to build up a relationship with somebody. And the way you build it up is by being consistent in your desire and your hunger and your ambition to work in finance. Another is like, who did you talk to at the firm? If I have somebody who only talked to like 5 people, I may question, how much they want this opportunity. But if you met somebody who talked to like 50 people and doesn't remember any of their names, that's probably like way worse than just talking to those 5 people. So there's a little bit of a balance there.